We're exploring America's exciting desert states, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. It's a boat trip inside a road trip with exciting wildlife, including a world-famous tortoise. Here I am at the Grand Canyon. And in California, we crash planes in an aircraft graveyard and visit Edwards Air Force Base. All roads lead somewhere, and on this 1 hour special, we're off on a hot trail across the USA.
Once upon a time, deep in the jungle, there was a girl who lived in a tree.
That's why they call her.
Well, Bindi, the jungle girl. Well, princess of the animal world. The crook hunter taught her, now his only daughter is Bindi, the jungle girl.
Come in. Hi there, Brazil. And you too, Snookums. Welcome to my treehouse. On this adventure, we're driving off on a holiday across the USA.
Woo-hoo! With any luck, I'll get to photograph everything that moves.
Okay, let's just jump in the car now.
There's the door. What a cute little car.
We're starting off in Las Vegas. Let's go. Woohoo! I'm coming, Mama. Las Vegas was built in the middle of the Nevada desert. My dad's best mate, Wes, is with us to take in the sights of Vegas before setting out on our road trip desert adventure. They call it the Glitter Strip, a city devoted totally to entertainment. Before they built Las Vegas, this was all desert, sand, and rocks. Now it's world famous as America's entertainment capital where there's something for everyone.
What do you reckon?
My brother especially loved the monorail. In the movies, it's easy to make it look like you're driving by putting a blue screen behind you to create a moving background.
That's like super, but I prefer reality. It's much more fun.
With the bright lights of Vegas behind us, we're off to explore the deserts of Nevada. You might think the desert's too boring, but no way, especially when you're with Wes. And Wes really knows how to find reptiles just about anywhere. We're checking out Red Rock Canyon in southern Nevada, a hot spot for snakes. You have to be careful where you walk. This rocky land is perfect for rattlers.
Have a look at this, Bindi. It's a western diamondback. Now, these guys are one of the largest rattlers in the world, the second actually. And you can have a look. Oh, he's a bit grumpy. These guys, Bindi, are at the pinnacle of evolution in snakes. If you have a look at him, he's not only got these big, beautiful eyes, he's got heat-sensing pits. So right now, he can actually see a large red patch, and he can actually see me wherever I move by my heat. But what I love about rattlers the most, let's see if we can... Come on. Oh, you're getting upset. Come on. Look at that rattle. Come on. Isn't he gorgeous? So you can see, he's not a mean animal. He lets you know where he is. Let's say I'm a bison or a cow and I start walking up, he starts to rattle and he actually lets you know that he's around. Awesome stuff. Let's keep going, hey?
This road trip is perfect for us to explore the desert. We can stop anywhere and check out the local wildlife.
Have a go at this little cutie. This is a chuckwalla. I can tell she's a girl because she's got this nice, dull coloration. The boys have a lot more red going through them. They have that red coloration so they can go, girls, look at me, I'm beautiful. They've got this sweet little face, and little ear guards. Now, lizards are different to snakes because they have ears. And these terrific claws, she's designed for climbing through the rocks. She's got these interesting scales. Bindi, you pat her backwards. Feel how rough it is?
Wow.
And yet when you pat her this way, it's nice and smooth. Her scales run a certain direction. If I'll set her down and she'll get all fat again. You're a good girl.
Crikey, 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 crikey.
Crikey! Did you know that the United States has 12,000 miles of shoreline and 7,500 miles of borders? God bless America.
We're about to meet one of the most famous reptiles in America. This is Mojave Max. Isn't he gorgeous? He's one of the most well-known tortoises in the United States. He's about 55 years old and absolutely beautiful. Aren't you gorgeous?
You know, Max actually has his own website. He's a pretty famous tortoise.
He is very famous.
Now, they like to burrow underground. Max here will go underground in October. He will hide underground where he's not going to get too cold right through the winter. Kids can guess exactly what day he's going to emerge in the spring. And there's neat prizes that can be won for guessing which day he's going to emerge. When Max comes out, you know it's spring. Hey, Bindi.
Yes, you do. Max lives here in the national park where rangers watch out for him. And you can see he's being well looked after.
One of the 44 species of reptile around this rugged landscape include the rare desert tortoise. And there should be no trouble finding these guys.
Look at you, girl. Now, this is a female desert tortoise. I can tell because she's got a cute little bottom, and she's cute. They're herbivores. They eat any of the grasses and edible flowers, leaves. The desert tortoise has evolved to suit the rugged terrain. She's got elephant-like feet, very powerful short legs, and she's got claws which allow her to dig those burrows, and she's heading straight up under this bush here to get a bit of cover. Oh, how's this? She's got a burrow up in there, straight down in there. It's about right on her side.
Jenny from Alabama wants to know how a rattlesnake makes its noise. Well, Jenny, a rattlesnake has a rattle on the end of its tail, made of keratin, which is like our fingernails, just like this one here. Look at this. This is a rattle off of a rattlesnake. Isn't it amazing? Each and every time it sheds its skin, it gets another little part. And then when that wears off, another piece just replaces it at the bottom. Isn't that amazing? But the really neat thing is that nothing's inside of it. Nothing at all is inside of this rattle. All it is these little joints. They join together, and that makes the rattling sound. And the other neat thing is that, I'm probably doing this 4, maybe 5 times a second. But rattlesnakes can do it 50 times a second. Woohoo! And no other snake in the world has a rattle. Coming up, our road trip goes into a spin. Bindi the Jungle Girl. Bindi. We're heading for one of the most famous dams in America, the Hoover Dam.
Super!
Hoover Dam is on the Colorado River, which is the border between the states of Arizona and Nevada. The part of the river where the dam was built is called Black Canyon, and this is the best way to see it from an inflatable boat right in front of the dam wall. When it was built more than 70 years ago, Hoover Dam was the biggest concrete structure in the world. The same amount of concrete could build a footpath all the way around from the North Pole to the South Pole. Behind the dam is Lake Mead. It provides water for the whole region. Crikey, look at the peregrine falcon nesting on the canyon wall. Peregrines were nearly wiped out by a chemical that damaged the eggshells so they couldn't hatch any babies. It was great fun learning how to drive the boat, but the best part was spotting wildlife in the Colorado River canyons.
These are Nelson Bighorn sheep, and they run up the side of that cliff like I'd run across a field. They've got these funky little suction feet so that their hooves curve over and kind of suck onto the rock a little bit.
The Hoover Dam was great, but it's time to leave the boat and get back to our road trip. We're on the trail of a reptile who pretends he's a rattlesnake. This is a bull snake. Have a go at him. Come here. Oh. Now, they call them bull snakes because they get so big. As you can see, he is quite huge. But they'll eat everything up to rabbits. They'll share holes with, like, tortoises, desert tortoises. They have no venom at all. If you have a look at his scales, when they shine in the light, it's like a rainbow sort of colour. These guys try to be really tough. They, like, rattle their tail to be like a rattlesnake to warn things off. And they flatten out their head. They try and look really, really tough, yet they're not too tough. He's hissing, aren't you? Oh, but he wants to go away. Next up is the habitat of a dangerous lizard. When they gave him a name, they called him a monster, but I think he's a little ripper.
Have a look at this little bloke. It's a Gila monster. The incredible thing about them is they're one of the only venomous lizards. Yeah, a venomous lizard. Now, there's one other species in Mexico called the bearded lizard, but I think Gila monsters are much prettier. They've got these beautiful patterning. If they bite you, you're going to be in for a world of trouble. They've got an incredibly strong jaw, and they're a little bit different to snakes in that snakes, well, a lot of venomous snakes actually have a hollow fang. These guys just got really gnarly teeth, and they grab hold of you and start crunching down. Now, to get one of these little blokes to bite you, you have to grab them. So they're of no threat to anyone as long as you leave them alone.
How old do these guys get?
Well, Bindi, they can get up to 50 years of age.
That's amazing. They remind me of shingleback called blue-tongue lizard.
They do, and I tell you what, I've been bitten by a blue tongue and a shingleback, and they're really hard to get off once they latch on. So I would hate to get grabbed by a guy with really good teeth and venom.
Bindi! Cities are sprawling into deserts, and bighorn sheep are learning to live life in the suburbs. Can we turn left here? Bighorn sheep are wild animals, so it's really strange to see them hanging out in someone's front yard. They usually live in the rocky desert mountains, but there's heaps of grass to eat around the suburbs, so who's to blame them for moving into town? So far, people and sheep in this neighborhood are getting along just fine. We have to learn to live with one another. Everyone loves them, even when they take over the local parks. We just make sure we don't get too close.
They just come up and they go like that.
Driving through tunnels is really fun. The Zion National Park is not just a great park to explore, it also has the best winding road and tunnels I've ever seen. They wanted to build a road directly between Zion National Park and the Grand Canyon. But there was a great mountain of rocks in the way. So they carved a tunnel straight through and left a few openings to show off the scenery.
Crikey! 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 Crikey!
Crikey! Did you know that bighorn sheep can fight for more than 24 hours? That's a headache.
Some of the biggest animals in America are bison, elk, and Texas longhorns, and they're even bigger when you stand alongside of them. Our next stop is in southern Utah, where we get to meet some of America's biggest animals.
Check out this Texas Longhorn. Isn't she beautiful? She's got this incredible set of gear here. Look at those horns. They're giant. Her horns are going to keep growing her whole life. Hey, Bindi, why are these called horns?
Because they don't shed like antlers.
No, you're wrong. Listen carefully. This is why they're called horns. That's why they're called horns. That way, when you're out driving your Texas Longhorn, if someone gets in the way, you can clear the decks. This one looks like an Appaloosa. Doesn't she have pretty colorations? So, Bindi, do you know what this guy's headgear is called?
Antlers?
Yep. And why are they antlers instead of horns?
Because horns stay on forever. These guys, they shed their antlers.
Can you believe they regrow all that headgear every single year? Those antlers are used for combat with other male elk. And when he's fighting the other elk and they're locking antlers, sometimes they've even got locked together and it can cost them their life. But that's very unusual for that to happen.
And here's the biggest land animal in America, the bison, or American buffalo. There used to be millions of them in big herds right across the prairies.
Have a guess at how much this guy would weigh, Bindi.
2,000 pounds?
That's a very good guess. About a ton of buffalo is what you're seeing standing here.
We ride the Grand Canyon next.
Bindi the Jungle Girl.
Hey, baby. Good sweetheart. This is a Burmese python. Come here. Named Sparkle from the tropical jungles of Southeast Asia. Isn't she huge? Yeah, you are. The snakes in the desert of Monument Valley are sleeker and faster. Monument Valley stretches across the border between the states of Utah and Arizona. What a harsh, dry environment. It doesn't look like anything could survive amongst the rocks of this desert, but it's perfect for reptiles, and some of them are just too cute. Wow, look at this little guy. Isn't he gorgeous? I'm pretty sure it could be a bull snake, but this little guy can grow up to over 7 feet of length. You see how he's flicking his tongue? That helps him to find food. Another good thing about these snakes is that they keep all the rodents like rats and mice in check. You know, if these guys weren't around, then we'd be overrun by rodents. We're searching for more snakes, but don't ever try this at home unless you're with a snake expert like Wes. Isn't this little guy a ripper? Fun's a snake! This little guy is called a long-nosed snake because, as you can see, he's got a very long nose for burrowing down. Now, what he does, if he's scared of something, he burrows down with his little nose and he coils around his head and then he poos on you. It's a great ritual. And you've also got to remember, do not touch any snakes because there's another sort of snake that looks nearly exactly like him and he's venomous. So this guy isn't venomous, but the other one called a coral snake is quite venomous. So don't touch any snakes, just leave them alone. Our next stop is one of the natural wonders of the world on the Colorado River. Here I am at the Grand Canyon, and 5 million visitors come here every year. Woohoo! It is absolutely the best spot. Yeah! How did the Grand Canyon get its name?
Well, it was way back in 1869. John Wesley Powell decided to name it the Grand Canyon. Good name, hey!
I know.
It's grand! It's my first time and Bindi's first time at the Grand Canyon. The canyon is 277 miles long. It was developed over years and years of erosion from the Colorado River and also from snow and ice and water coming down the sides. And now the canyon is 5,000 feet. That's a mile deep. And at its widest point, it's 16 miles across as the raven flies.
The ravens are among the most dominant birds right through the Grand Canyon. Sandy from Illinois has asked if I like trains. Well, Sandy, I love trains, especially steam trains. Woo! The Grand Canyon Railway carried its first passengers into the canyon more than 100 years ago, but I bet they didn't have music like this to see them off. Brother, you played the banjo. We've also got great entertainment here on the train. We're heading to the Grand Canyon. Bye! The best part of our visit to the Grand Canyon was horse riding around the top. Yee-haw! The really great thing about riding the rim of the Grand Canyon on horseback is the speed. At walking pace, there's time to see everything.
This is the best way to get through Arizona. Horseback, I love it.
You got to keep in mind, prior to about 1915, this was the only way to get around. People who are car salesmen today used to be horse traders, and without horses, there's a lot of the West that would have never been settled.
The first Europeans saw the Grand Canyon more than 450 years ago, and just like this, some of them rode on horseback. Nowadays, it's our choice how we travel, but horseback is still a great way to go.
Next, we get our kicks on Route 66. Woohoo!
Bindi the jungle bear.
Bindi!
There's one highway in America that's lost in time. It's one of the most famous highways in the world, Route 66. It was America's main street, and it ran from Chicago to Los Angeles. Route 66 is now just a few historic roads through towns like Williams, Arizona, a place that's trapped in time. Along the highway, you can find roadside zoos where they let you close enough to touch the animals that roam the surrounding countryside.
These are fellow deer, aren't they gorgeous? You can see they have these beautiful spots. Now the fawns and the grown-ups... Hey! Stop it! They both have spots all their life. What they use those for is, like with the dappled shade, they can blend in really, really well. In North America, the key deer get to about this size and alligators eat them. Bless you. Now, the boy deers only grow antlers, the girls don't. And also, the boys' antlers shed off every single year. It's amazing. Look, the deer's drinking. Oh no. This is a girl deer.
Here, look. Right
Here's a stick of an antler. Driving on the open roads is easy because they're long and wide. But driving in the city is a different story, as my dad found out in LA.
My dad could drive anything off-road,
You want me to go out in that?
but in a big city, no way.
I'm going to go into that. I think I'd sooner take on a 10-foot rattlesnake. I can't go through this guy.
With Mum as navigator, at least he made it into the flow of traffic. Mum knew where they should be going.
Don't cross the yellow line. Right.
With my dad at the wheel, it was a miracle they actually got anywhere at all. But with a bit of teamwork, they eventually figured it out and arrived at their destination. Stay with us for ghost towns, rattlesnakes, and jets! American deserts are chock-a-block full with wildlife, especially rattlesnakes. And I meet the rattlesnake's arch-enemy.
He's too cute for his own good.
They're ghostly remains of the Wild West. And an aircraft graveyard where old airliners make one last flight. Hi, Stripes. Looking good. And you too, baby boas.
We're continuing our road trip from Vegas to LA through one of the hottest spots in California, the Mojave Desert.
I'm plumb rattled. My memory stick's melted. Darn it.
The Mojave is home to some hot rattlesnakes too.
The Mojave Desert is in Southern California, and it's a lot more than just sand. It's full of rocky outcrops and canyons, perfect homes for reptiles, and my dad's best mate Wes has found a speckled rattlesnake. My mum actually spotted it, so Wes is handing it over so she can tell us all about it.
Wow. He found him. He's yours.
Oh, what a beauty. Hi,
cutie.
Hey, Bindi, look at this.
Look at this rattle. He's no baby. Look at the size of it. That's what I heard. You hear this? Don't move. They strike simply to be defensive. It's not their fault. Isn't he beautiful?
Excellent, Terry.
How pink is he? And look how fat he is. Fat as mud. I reckon he's been feeding on lots of little rodents and little squirrel jiggers living in the rocks. Stop and think about the evolution of the rattlesnake. He rattles his rattle, yet he has no ears. He cannot even hear himself rattle. But he knows when he does that something like me coming along will hear him and get out of his way. Isn't he beautiful?
You'll probably hear a rattlesnake before you see it. They like to give you a warning so you can back off and move safely away. One of the great things about the wilderness parks in the USA is how you're allowed to have adventures off the beaten track.
Jeez, it's hard keeping up with Bindi.
Here's a perfect spot to try some rock climbing. Isn't this great? This is a prime spot. Have a go at all these different sorts of caves and little holes in the rocks. But when you're climbing, you gotta watch out, because you never know when a snake or any other wildlife could be just around the corner. And you know another really cool thing about here is that you echo. How about I show you?
The sand in the Mojave Desert gets very hot, up to 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Whoa!
That's so totally hot. I could almost boil water.
Since when do you cook?
We're heading to the Singing Sand Dunes. Doesn't that sound weird?
We're at the Kelso sand dunes, which is pretty amazing in the Mojave Desert. It's around about 600 feet high and covers around about 45 acres. You know, the other awesome thing about these sand dunes is they actually make music. Now, that's hard to believe, but when these sand dunes get higher and higher, you get a big slip and a whole heap of sand rushes down the mountain, and when it hits the sand at the bottom, it actually makes it vibrate, and it makes a noise like a low-flying aircraft. What an incredible spot.
That's amazing. These sand dunes can get up to 150 degrees. But I think I want to be a sidewinder, because what they do, because these guys don't want to get their belly or all hot and burn their belly, so what they do is they slither across like this so they don't burn their belly. And there's a lizard that has flaps of skin between his toes, like snowshoes pretty much. And what they do, they run really, really fast across the sand dunes like this. Bye!
Crikey! 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 Crikey!
Crikey! Did you know the Sahara Desert is the largest desert in the world? It's as big as the entire United States, including Alaska.
One thing you don't see a lot of in the desert is rain. But there are a lot of trees, Joshua trees.
We're right in the center of the Mojave Desert, and it's surprising what we find.
The Joshua tree here gives great shade because it grows really big. It's both a shrub or bush and a tree, and it provides shade to all kinds of little mammals. Birds will nest in the side of the tree. It also provides an important niche for the Yucca Moth.
I actually learned about the Yucca Moth in school with Miss Emma.
Excellent.
I know.
There's somebody inside here.
Looks like a spider, like a tarantula.
That's right.
Oh,
Let me see if I can just tease him out a little bit. They roam around the desert looking for a girl spider to fall in love with. Now, the girl spiders primarily live underground. They dig down in the earth and they pounce on their dinner. They don't spin a web and catch their food like a traditional spider. Now, Robert, did you want to let him go? Yeah, just touch his bottom a little bit. You scrunch right down there. Robert, should you ever pick up a spider without asking your mama? What do you do if you see a spider?
Tell Mom.
Tell Mom. Good boy. Here we go.
Darren from North Dakota wants to know if I'm teaching Robert to be a TV presenter. As a matter of fact, Darren, I am, and boy howdy, he's a fast learner.
Action!
It's a volcano, and it's not just a volcano, it's a volcano rock.
Okay, Robert, hold it up to camera so I can see it. That's the way. That's great. Okay, Robert, release the rock. Let it go free. Good boy. Now race off and tell Mom all about it. Ghosts rule the Outbacks next.
Bindi the Jungle Girl.
Bindi! Driving through the southwest of California, we found more snakes than you could poke a stick at. Every time we see the right sort of habitat, we're off the road to search for more wildlife.
Have a look at this little bloke. It's a little red rattlesnake, and these guys are found in California and of course in Mexico as well, where they're probably more common. Isn't he absolutely cute? But these guys can get quite large, and they're similar to western diamondbacks, but they've got this beautiful red coloration. That's so they blend in with these rocks. Have a look at his little tail. They call this a coon tail because it looks like a raccoon. And look at those two holes at the end of his nose there. They're heat sensing pits. When a warm-blooded animal comes past, he's able to pick the warmest spot and just crack and grab hold of it. Off you go.
Crikey! 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 Crikey!
Crikey! Did you know that roadrunners can run 17 miles an hour? That wily coyote doesn't stand a chance.
Sometimes it's not what you see with your eyes, it's what you hear with your ears. And that sound means leave it to a grown-up expert.
You're a little beauty. This is a Pacific rattlesnake in the classic pose. Look at that tongue out, flicking up and down. They can tell 0.4 degree of a temperature variance. That means if a little mouse comes along, they put that tongue out, they can sense the hottest spot on the mouse, and they'll strike right where the heart is. The Pacific rattlesnake is found, as you might guess, all along the Pacific coast. They eat any little rodents or animals that will breed up, and this would be a big Pacific rattler. You watch what happens when I back off. Everything should get quiet. I'm gonna leave you alone.
Look at this. This is a little long-nosed snake. Isn't he beautiful? Yes, you are. Now, they call him a long-nosed snake because he's got a long nose for digging in the sand or on the dirt. We don't really know why he has these beautiful colours, but I'm pretty sure it must be to mimic a very, very venomous snake called the coral snake, so that other predators that might have a go at him might think twice. This long-nosed snake isn't venomous. His mouth isn't big enough to actually do some damage if he did bite me. The main thing is that you've always got to remember, never pick up a snake. But they're absolutely gorgeous. I love snakes. You are so beautiful. He's too cute for his own good.
Crikey! 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 Crikey!
Crikey! Did you know that it snowed in the Sahara Desert way back in 1979? I remember it well.
Bindi the Jungle Girl.
Everywhere you go in the desert, the past is all around you. But in ghost towns, our history comes to life. We're about to arrive at the settlement of Calico, one of the isolated ghost towns left over from the old days of the Wild West. Most of the ghost towns were built during the short-lived gold rushes, but Calico was famous for silver in the 1800s. Thousands of miners swarmed into town overnight, and then they left almost as suddenly when the price of silver dropped. Calico has made a comeback as a piece of living history. It's the perfect place for tourists to get a feel of life from the days when the gunslingers had shootouts in the streets. These days, our skies are full of aeroplanes, thousands of them flying all over the world. But do you ever wonder where all the old ones go when they retire? Our next stop is the Mojave Air and Spaceport, a totally cool place where aircraft of all shapes and sizes make their final landing. The desert is perfect for keeping old planes in mothballs. The dry air helps keep them in good condition, ready for recycling and spare parts. Bonnie from Oregon asked if there are different kinds of rats. Yes, Bonnie, there are. My pet rat Candy has hair though, but check out these rats in the USA that are completely hairless. This is a hairless rat. It hasn't been shaved or anything. They've been bred to have no hair. Hairless rats help humans. Like if somebody's in like an accident and they lose their ear, they can just sew the ear onto the rat, and that keeps the blood supply going into the ear. They get the ear off of the rat, put it back on the person, which is absolutely neat. The best bit is the rat is perfectly fine. Baby snakes are identical to their parents, like this mama and baby boa from South America. In California, I found a mama and a baby king snake. Anytime you're near a snake, be careful because you never know if it's dangerous or not. This is a king snake. Isn't he gorgeous? Well, he or she gorgeous. Now, the reason why they call these guys king snakes is because this is really, really neat. They're not venomous, but they eat rattlesnakes. Isn't that amazing? They grab them by the scruff of the neck, they constrict them, and then gobble them down. This is as big as they get. Aren't they gorgeous? He is beautiful. I love him. My friend Werner has turned this old DC-3 into a very special Winnebago. How good is this? The best part of our visit to the Mojave graveyard was the fun we had with all the old planes. Well, I got the wing down. Now I've got to demolish the middle. Let's do it.
Have you got your seatbelt on?
No, I don't.
Oh, I've got mine on. This is luxury. And you know, these new windows let you see just everything.
Exactly.
It's practically like we're outside.
Exactly. It's like there's no window.
I'm glad we bumped up to business. This is luxury.
It is. Hey, wasn't this the $10 flight to Las Vegas?
Yeah, this doesn't look like Las Vegas. I think we got ripped off.
And there's even more fun inside the cabin.
Okay, we're just taxiing out. Can you help me out, co-pilot, and check some of those knobs and buttons?
Are you sure this is safe?
This is my first time.
That's why I'm worrying.
Here we go. Lights on. Dim. Here we go. Full throttle. Brace yourself. And we have liftoff. I gotta get this straightened out. Oh no, she's turning in. She's turning in. Strap it in. We're going down. Hang on. We're going down.
Save your children!
Can't hold her any longer.
Go, go, go! Imagine what it would be like flying faster than the speed of sound in a jet fighter. Well, my dad flew an F-16 in Arizona. My dad was given a huge privilege. The boys at Luke Air Force Base invited him for a flight in a jet named after a reptile, the Viper F-16 fighter, ready for takeoff. And this is no ordinary plane ride. It's really, really fast. And when a jet fighter is turning at top speed, there are powerful forces on the people inside. On this flight, they hit 9 Gs. That's 9 times the force of gravity. The pilot is trained for it, but my dad wasn't. Here it comes. The G-forces piled on and my dad couldn't hang on.
All right. How'd you do? Oh, boy. You got 8.9 Gs. We got 9 Gs. How'd that feel? Yeah, I just went out cold. The breakfast came close to coming on.
My dad was out cold for a few seconds. Back on the ground, even with all the action and noise from the jets, my dad found good, healthy wildlife.
This is a coach whip. It's a collie breed, non-venomous. They got a great set of teeth, and he's hunting around in the heat of the day chasing lizards. Hey!
And this is just what he'd like to eat, but he'd have to be super fast.
Oh, you're a little fast one. Here's the fastest lizard I've ever seen. Zebra tail. It's a zebra-tailed dragon. And for good reason. Look at those beautiful black and white stripes on his tail. Really long. Toes, claws, long legs, long front legs. They've got a couple of signals to signal to the other dragons. They'll do hand waves and head bobs.
And zip, he's gone.
From planes that are grounded to jets that can fly. Next. Bindi the Jungle Girl. Bindi! Did you know the Mojave Desert is one of the landing strips for the space shuttle? Edward Air Force Base uses the Salt Lakes as its jet base.
The base and a lake with no water is one of the last stops on our road trip to Los Angeles.
We're here at Edwards Air Force Base.
This amazing lake bed is called Rogers Dry Lake. It's 67 square miles, rock hard like concrete. It's the perfect place to land the space shuttle.
When the shuttle takes off, it goes straight up like a rocket. Well, it is a rocket. But when it comes down, it takes a long, long landing strip to get it safely on the ground. And there's plenty of space here at Edwards, and there's the dry lake as a backup.
So, Bindi, do you know what this plane is for?
Well, this plane is used for carrying the space shuttles.
Absolutely right. It used to be a passenger jet that took people from New York to Paris, but it was renovated to be used to carry the space shuttle.
This fantastic museum shows the whole history of Air Force aviation. Hundreds of aircraft were tested right here.
In the 1940s, it became very important for aircraft to improve markedly. One way that it could improve would be by breaking the speed of sound. One very brave and imaginative individual was about to do just that when Chuck Yeager, on October 14th, 1947, broke the sound barrier right here at Edwards Air Force Base. And he did it in this, the X-1.
The X-1 was carried up to 42,000 feet and dropped into the sky. This rocket plane then blasted straight through the sound barrier. Going faster than the speed of sound had never been done before. Some scientists thought the plane would actually explode. That makes Chuck Yeager a very brave pilot. Everyone was relieved and excited when he actually did it.
Now, this reproduction was made in 1997 to celebrate the 50th year, and it is one impressive recreation, exactly to the gnat's eyebrow, how it looked more than 50 years ago.
What an amazing trip we've had from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. We've driven across the western states, gone rafting on the mighty Colorado River, and found dangerous reptiles.
You're in for a world of trouble.
And no other snake in the world has a rattle.
I found snakes that like to eat rattlesnakes, and we saw the amazing Sidewinder.
That's amazing.
Robert met spiders, and Mum discovered cow horns.
That's why they're called horns.
We saw some of the biggest animals in the American West and some of the most gorgeous reptiles, including Mojave Max.
Max actually has his own website.
Yeehaw! We discovered horse riding around the Grand Canyon and horsing around in some mini canyons.
A star!
And we had some great fun in the aviation graveyard.
The desert may look like a very barren place, but when you scratch the surface, it really comes to life. It's gorgeous.
The wildlife in the deserts is worth 1,000,000 photographs, and I think I took every one.
Look, there's the sign to LA. Our road journey's come to an end, but we'll see you next time for more fun